Hello and welcome to the channel today. I'm Will and I'm going to be discussing, as I'm sure you can tell from the title of the video, 10 series that will be my priorities for the rest of 2024. We're just beyond the halfway mark, so it feels like a suitable time to do this video. And so there's 3 categories that I'll be talking about. There's series that I'm going to start and finish. There's series that I'm going to get up to date with because the series aren't finished. There's more releases to come. And ones that I'm partway through that I will finish. So I'm not just going to talk about series that I might read book 1 and then stop for the rest of 2024. These are ones that I will finish or get up to date with. And so, as I said, there'll be 10, mixture of genres, mixture of authors, and I hope you enjoy what is going to come. So first up, I have Jade City. So I'm going to start and finish this series, hopefully, in 2024. It is the Greenbone Saga, starts with Jade City, then Jade War, and then Jade Legacy. I've had so many people talk about how much they love this series. From Daniel Green to Patrick Cleo, they say it is incredible. A lot of people say it's kind of Godfather inspired, but my brother Ed said that's just because it's kind of mafia, it's kind of gangster, but it's not the Godfather. But anyway, I love something that's about family, that dynamic, and it feels like it's a very unique premise. I actually read 100 pages of Jade City about 4 years ago, and then I had exams, and then I had some books I really had to read, and so this just kind of got left behind, but I absolutely loved those first 100 pages. Of course, I don't remember really what happens, so I will be starting from the beginning, and I actually intend to read Jade City in July. And so yeah, the priority series, and I intend to start this in July, get it started, get it kicked off, and I imagine from how much hype I've heard about this that once I start I won't want to stop. And so yeah, that is Jade City by Fonda Lee, and the first book that I'm talking about today. And then talking about one that I'm going to start soon, one I've actually just started but not finished book 1 yet, is Mistborn, so The Final Empire. I don't know if that's Era 1 or Era 2. I hear a lot of people talk about that of Mistborn. I don't know. I just dived into the first book of Mistborn, and so I'm going to be reading that trilogy. I believe the next book is The Well of Ascension. Tell me in the comments if I'm wrong, but yeah, I'm nearly finished with The Final Empire. I'm really enjoying it. I had some complaints early on in the first half of the book, but they've been ironed out, and I'm really enjoying the second half especially so. So yeah, I'll be carrying on with this trilogy. By how much I enjoy it depends if I'll carry on with the other part of the trilogy or if I try a different Brandon Sanderson book. We'll see, but for now I'm pinpointing I'll be reading the first trilogy of Mistborn. And so yeah, that is the second one I'm talking about today. So 2 fantasy ones so far, and now on to another fantasy series, and it is the Bloodsworn Saga, book 3. This is one that I won't be starting because I've already read The Shadow of the Gods quite a few times, and the same with The Hunger of the Gods, but The Fury of the Gods by Papa John Gwynne, that's not his full name, that's just what I call him, is released in October 22nd to be precise. I believe it's October 20th in America. I may be wrong there though. But anyway, it's released near the end of October. That's the important part. We're actually doing a read-along over on the Brothers Gwynne. Currently we're reading Of Blood and Bone by Papa Gwynne, but then in September, October, November, we will be reading the Bloodsworn Saga, 1 book a month, so please do join us. I'll put a link to our Discord in the description below. We've been having some great chats about the books at the moment, and in the Discord you can also put suggestions for what read-along we'll be doing next. But yes, perfect time to jump on the bandwagon or read them again and refresh yourself before the release of Fury of the Gods. So this is a series that we'll be getting up to date with as Fury of the Gods is released. And now on to one that I've not started yet, but I will get up to date with. That is Annals of the God Eater by Rob J. Hayes. So that's actually the name of one of the series. He's doing something very unique. I believe he's got 3 books coming out, or two shorter books and 1 long book. The long book called Herald. And they are all part of the same world, but set in different time periods in that world. So you can read any of them, any order, any mixture, and all of the first installments of each series are being released this year. And so I hope to read all 3 actually. And so even though only one of the series is called Annals of the God Eater, I'm including them kind of as one bigger series. And so that's what I mean. I hope to read all three. Herald is around, I think, quite big, quite a chunky book. I think Petrick Leo said it's around 220,000 words, but then the others are around 100,000 or maybe even less. And so, yeah, I hopefully will be reading all three of those in 2024. I really love that Rob J. Hayes is taking a unique idea here. And it is a bit of a risk. It is quite risky. It's very new. I don't know anyone else who has done this, but he's attempting it, and I hope it pays off. He's an author I've thoroughly enjoyed in the past. Wars of the Eternal, I think his series is called. I read all 5 books in that, really enjoyed it. And my favourite book by him is Never Die, which I really highly recommend. It's a great palate cleanser. It's quite short, very fast paced, very unique premise, and one that you can dive into straight away, and it can act as a standalone. So yeah, that's a self-published book I probably recommend above all others, other than Philip Chase's series, the Adan trilogy. But if it's one you want to dive into quickly, then yeah, Never Die is the one for you, in my opinion. So I think that's 4 I've done so far. And so on to the next. Another series I'll be catching up with is Empire of the Damned. And so this series isn't finished. I've read book 1, Empire of the Vampire, but Empire of the Damned book 2 was released this year, a few months ago. And yeah, it's quite a chunky book, but I found it really easy to kind of blitz through Empire of the Vampire. So I imagine I'll feel the same here. It was so great to hear amazing kind of reviews on Empire of the Damned from those such as Mike's Book Reviews, who I loved Empire of the Vampire as much as he did. And with some of the differences I heard was going to be in Empire of the Damned, such as a new POV and not just being one POV status like Empire of the Vampire, I thought it was quite risky. And I was a little bit, not worried, but I was just a bit on edge. Will it be as good as book 1? But from all the reviews I've heard, that is a risk well taken, and it really pays off. And Jay Kristoff had a great idea with doing that. And I think he has finished book 3 now. He was at least very far through it when I last checked. And so that means hopefully book 3 will be coming in 2025. And I think that will be the end of the series. So, of course, I want to catch up. I want to be ready for book 3. And Empire of the Vampire was one of my favourite reads of 2022, I believe it was. And also it's one of my favourite books of all time. And so I hope this can join those lofty heights and reach those ranks. And so, yes, I will be catching up with the Empire of the Vampire series. And then I've got another one I'll be catching up, but also finishing in 2024. That is Ghaul's Song or Gale's Song. Sorry, I'm awful with pronunciations. But anyway, the series by Shauna Lawless. I've read book 1, The Children of Gods and Fighting Men, and I've read 2 novellas, Dreams of Fire and Dreams of Sorrow, which are, by the way, 2 of the best novellas I've ever read. And you can read them before reading book 1. Anyway, I've read them 3. This is book 2, The Words of Kings and Prophets, which is the second book in the trilogy. And book 3 is called The Land of the Living and the Dead. What a title. Possibly the best title of 2024. So brilliant. So this is historical fantasy. We're thrust into very late 10th century Ireland as the Vikings are making their presence known and are trying to forge their lands deeper into Ireland. And the Irish mythological element comes in with 2 rival families of Irish mythology, the Tuatha Dé Danann, I'm so sorry for my pronunciation, and the Fomorians, just ignore how I'm saying them, but 2 rival families who hate each other, one much more powerful than the other, one who has many more members than the other, but they don't know where the other is. And so in the Children of Gods and Fighting Men, you've got 2 POVs, one from one family, one from the other. And they are both brilliant. We've got one POV who she is a political schemer. She finds a way to survive and thrive. And of course, we're in late 10th century Ireland. We're in patriarchal society. And so she must operate through the men around her. And the Children of Gods and Fighting Men, it was brilliant how she did that. And also the other POV, who I would call a protagonist, she was someone who just really resonated. She was a compelling character who you really feel for, and yeah, she's just being taken in by the tide, swept into events that should not befall her. She's so nice. It just felt harsh when bad things were happening. And yeah, Shauna Lawless, I don't think is afraid to do bad things to her character. And so a bit of scary aspect to reading book 2 and book 3. But yeah, that is historical fantasy. I believe the first non-pure fantasy book I've talked about today. And then next up, I have The Nightingale and the Falcon, another historical fantasy series. This is by Stephen Orion. Book 2, The Blood-Dimmed Tide, is released in July. Book 1 is... Book 1 is The Judas Blossom. And it is the Mongol Empire, I believe, in the 13th century. If I'm going ultra specific, I think 1256, although that may just be a really random number that pops into my head for no reason. But for some reason, I think it's 1256. Anyway, the specifics aren't actually very important. It's the Mongol Empire near its peak. It's multi-POV. We've got those in charge of armies of the Mongol Empire, to those trying to overthrow it from powerful positions, to those in hidden organisations trying to keep their city alive. And then others who have been taken kind of slave by the Mongols and they are just trying to survive. So one of the really compelling and powerful and really intriguing elements of this series is the huge array of perspectives, not in terms of numbers, but in terms of their backgrounds, their motivations, and they feel completely unlinked to each other. But at the end of the book, I loved how their kind of storylines interlinked and weaved in and out of each other, and how they influenced each other's positions. And I believe that is going to carry on with book 2. The fantastical element was very, very light in book 1. We kind of just saw a little bit of where the fantasy, the magic is coming in. But I believe that will be far more present in The Blood-Dimmed Tide. Stephen Orion has a very stripped back, simple prose that is very effective. I think he's kind of adopted that to really hit home kind of the mindset and the theology of the Mongol Empire and the perspectives that we follow. They're just trying to survive. They're not trying to complicate everything else. So the prose really reflects their ideals and their intentions. It's a great book, and I'm looking forward to carrying on and catching up to date with The Nightingale and the Falcon. And then I have The Women of Troy by Pat Barker. This is Greek mythology. Book 1 is The Silence of the Girls, which I've done a review actually on the channel. So this was, I think, my second review of the channel actually. This is a Trojan retelling, but from the perspective of Briseis, who we've never really seen as a central figure before. One of those that has been left in the background. There's been a recent influx over the last 6-7 years of Greek retellings, feminist retellings from the perspective of the women who don't really get given a light, and they're only there for their male counterparts. And Silence of the Girls, I would say, is top of the pile for the best out of those. It may be my favourite mythological retelling of all time. I know, big, but I think it is, because it is just extraordinary. The Silence of the Girls, if you want to hear my complete thoughts on why I love this book, check out the review. But it is expertly told. We really feel this drive for survival, and it is very emotional. It's very hard-hitting, and Pat Barker just proves she is one of the best writers out there. So book 2 is The Women of Troy, which I also thought was fantastic. Not quite as incredible as The Silence of the Girls, but still a 5-star read for me. And book 3, which I believe will be the final, is called The Voyage Home, which is going away from Troy. It's the journey back to Greece, and so into land not really told before. And so that would be really interesting how Pat Barker does that. I just trust in her. I trust she's got a great story. It's been, I think, 3 years since The Women of Troy was released, so she's taken her time with it, and now she's coming out with The Voyage Home. And so yeah, I'll be catching up and I believe finishing the series, as I think this will be the final installment. And so yeah, I'm looking forward to being back with Briseis in a way that I think is going to torment me. That's what she does. She torments her characters in a way that feels so real and visceral, and it just really hits home. But I'm looking forward to the reading experience. And then I have Red Rising. I've read the original trilogy, but I intend to catch up and finish the next 3 books. So get up to date, because I believe the last book may be being released in 2025. Am I wrong? I may be wrong. But the next one I'm reading, I believe, is Iron Gold. So book 4 of the series. So in case you don't know, I imagine 99% of you do know, Red Rising started as kind of an original trilogy that kind of wraps up unto itself. But there are still unanswered questions, and we're not sure what's going to happen beyond the end of the book. So there's now a sequel series. And so I'll be reading and getting up to date with the sequel series. I love the original trilogy. I love Pierce Brosnan's really breathtaking, fast pace. I love his characters. I think his dialogue is fantastic. And he has a way of bringing characters to life so quickly. He really does feel like a force of nature. And yeah, he's such a confident writer. And I really love that. He's a very unique writer as well. And yeah, Red Rising is one of those series that is huge for a reason, in my opinion, and I think it is well founded and it deserves to be as renowned and loved as it is. And so I think that is 9, and so on to the last one I'm talking about today, some pure historical fiction, and that is the Three Kingdom Chronicles. I've read 2 installments, this is the 3rd one, and I'll be reading the 4th installment as well. So the Three Kingdoms Chronicles, it takes kind of the period of history of the War of the Three Kingdoms, which, if you're a fan of Dynasty Warriors, I think you'll know about. But yeah, it's a period of history that is so fascinating. There's conflict between 3 different kingdoms that continued for so long. And this is a chronicler's tale. Book 1, we follow a very old man telling the story of his past. And so book 1, the Yellow Sky Revolt, is a coming-of-age story, and so is book 2, really, as I think we leave when he's about 17 is when book 2 finishes. And so they're coming-of-age stories, and this is getting into kind of out of that coming-of-age and into, as our main character, is getting more responsibility. He's having more control over his actions. I think it was fantastic how the first 2 books are really fascinating and intriguing, despite following a character with very little agency, because that can often prove a problem to authors. And then with children, they're often given too much agency so that the book is more entertaining, but then that detracts from the immersion because it feels like children don't really have an influence over what's going on around them. So it'd be very interesting seeing how the author kind of adapts to going into this new phase of the story, but I believe Baptiste will really do a great job. I love his writing the first 2 installments, and this is great self-published historical fiction that I think you should check out, and I'll be catching up to date with in 2024. So yeah, they are 10 series that I'll either be finishing, starting and finishing, or getting up to date with. And so yeah, I'll obviously be keeping everyone up to date over here and on the Brothers Gwyn and on my social media outlets such as Instagram, Twitter and TikTok as well, where I post about books that I'm loving at the moment, because there's so many books out there that whilst they don't all click with me, I don't really get too much time to make videos, and so the time I do spend, I'd rather talk about the books that I'm loving, and that's why a lot of it is very positive. So these are 10 that I'm very excited to carry on with, or finish, or start and finish, and so on and so forth. But yeah, 10 that are the priorities. There'll be others that I'm sure that I'll start and finish as well, and the mood reader takes over. But as I said, these are the priorities, the ones I'm most looking forward to, and the ones I feel most certain I will actually deliver on. And so yeah, it'll be interesting checking in at the end of the year. Did I keep to the promise of starting, finishing these 10? But everyone, please let me know the series you're most looking forward to finishing or starting for the rest of the year. And yeah, let me know in the comments below about that. But thank you so much for watching, and stay safe.